All right, in this series, we are assuming that you have made the decision to purchase a home, whether that be here in the Chicago area where I work or anywhere, anytime, really. This is the fourth step in a five-step series. The first step was getting your pre approval done with a reputable lender. The second step was finding a real estate agent that you can trust and vibe with and knows what you're looking for and can help you out with that. The third step was actually going out into the world and looking at places and finding the right property that works for you. And now the fourth step is actually submitting and negotiating an offer. My name is Jake Lyons. I'm a realtor here with At Properties in the Chicago area. And I am also the owner and founder of the ChicagoHomeSource.com, which is where you can go and look for properties and get connected to me and our team um, and just get connected with all the different resources available to you on there. I am partial and a little bit biased, but I do believe it to be the best real estate source out there for if you're looking for a place in the Chicagoland area for any residential properties around here. Go there. So with that out of the way, okay. Yeah, so a lot of people get. It's fair to say probably a lot of people get a little tense, a little stressed out around this part of it, the submitting an offer and negotiating it. This is probably my favorite part. It's like a sport. Um, I like the or like a game, is just like all these different types of factors that go into it. I was explaining a little bit in the last video about, or maybe it was the 2 videos ago about why having a real estate agent is such a big deal, helping you and to represent your best interests in this transaction. And this step right here, more than any, in my opinion, is where a good trusted advisor really comes into play, who knows what they're doing and knows the market. I'll quickly go over some of the factors and the components that go into a negotiation. Um, so the first big one that your agent will do for you should be doing for you prior to even submitting an offer is doing a CMA. That stands for comparative market analysis. And what that does is it takes the property that you're interested in, that you're thinking about putting an offer in on, and it compares it to other properties in that immediate area, or if there's not enough comps, we call them comps, comparable properties in that area, at least maybe that are in comparable properties in comparable areas and whatever. That's kind of like high level stuff we don't even get into. But anyway, you're comparing like properties to the one that you're thinking about putting an offer in on, and making adjustments. Maybe you're looking at a house that is 4 bedrooms and a garage, and every other house in the area only has 5 bedrooms and outdoor parking. So you have to kind of adjust for certain things like that. Your realtor should be skilled in doing that and knowing exactly how to discount certain things and plug it into a way that makes sense to kind of spit out a number. Essentially, the goal of all of this is to kind of spit out a general range or a number of what is fair for this property. What's the actual value of this property? It's kind of like the appraisal. When you go through the appraisal, this is what they do as well. So that's the first step, is just kind of honing in on what's a good price for this. What should we be offering? The next factor is the time on market. So, this is where leverage, all of these things is kind of where leverage comes into play, and just knowing all the different forces at work here. So time on market is a big one. If a place has been on the market for only 3 days, odds are that seller is probably going to be less likely to accept a lowball offer, because they're looking to get as much money as they can, and they, if it's only been on the market for 3 days, they're probably willing to hang on a little bit longer for a better offer to come in. Versus if it's been on the market for a year and has gone through 4 price changes in that year, and still nobody hasn't even gone under contract yet or anything, maybe that seller is more motivated and more willing to let it go or for a lower price. Not necessarily. I mean, it all depends on the seller. It all depends on the person and the situation. But just in general, in a vacuum, that's kind of what we look at for time on market. The other is absorption rate. So that's just kind of a fancy way of saying like what's the supply versus the demand. So, you know, if there's a high demand for a certain product, a certain type of property, and there is very little supply on the market to meet the demand for that type of property, then the buyer's leverage in that situation is going to be less than if the demand was low and the supply was high, right? This is basic economics. And absorption rate is basically just what we say. That's like how many properties of a certain type were on the market versus how many were purchased before. So that's how we determine. We put it in terms of months supply, and that's how we determine if it's a seller's market or a buyer's market or a neutral market, if the demand and the supply are pretty even. The seller's motivation is another big factor of the negotiation, and that is hard. That can be very hard to discern sometimes because it really just all kind of depends on how forthcoming the seller's agent is about what's going on. And you know, sometimes it just depends on the agent. It depends on what the seller has given the permission to the agent to say, or if the agent, you know, just is kind of loose-lipped about things and is willing to like let some information go that maybe they shouldn't. It's important to ask questions. Just know that they don't necessarily have to tell you the correct answers to those questions. They're allowed to just, you know, like a very common question, like something that I would always ask is, oh, why are they selling? Why is the seller? Why are they selling? Are they moving? Did they get a new job? Are they just looking for a bigger place? Did they get a family? What's going on? You know, most of the time I will get some kind of response, but you know, if the listing agent is a little more on the shrewd side, they might just say like, I don't have permission to share that information, and that's a perfectly reasonable response, and arguably probably the response they should be giving. And then, of course, there's just the financial strength of the buyer. I mean, this is kind of what it all comes down to, right? Is if you're submitting a cash offer, that's probably going to be more appealing than like an FHA offer with 3.5% down and you know, with a 2-month closing time versus a cash offer that's cash in the bank and, you know, you can close in 2 weeks, things like that. Again, depending on what the seller is looking for, but and just how much the offer is for and that kind of thing. There's levels to all of this, but you know, just in general, the financial strength of the buyer, what kind of loan they're coming to the table with, what kind of down payment they're putting up, and the closing time, the amount of time from the time of contract to the closing, all very important factors to consider. Earnest money deposit in general, you know, the more earnest money is basically like the amount of money that you put up as sort of a good faith payment to the seller. They put it in escrow. It counts towards the purchase price at closing. So it's not like an extra thing. It's included. It's within what you're offering. But in theory, if you back out of the deal for no good reason, then the seller gets to keep your earnest money. So it's just like a good faith, you know, I'm putting up $10,000 of earnest money, and if we get down the road and I back out, then you get to keep that. Terms and contingencies are also very important, and this is where things can start getting a little more creative too, potentially, because you know these are the kind of things that, like, all things being equal, like if you're competing, basically putting up the same offer price, the same type of financing, the same closing time, and all that kind of stuff. These are the things that maybe you can tweak a little bit just to stand out in the crowd a little bit more. So Common contingencies are attorney review is very standard across it. You're pretty much always going to have that. That just means that you have an attorney here in Chicago. It's kind of standard procedure to have an attorney on the buy side. That is not the case everywhere. I'm only an agent here, so I really only know how it works here. I don't. If this is news to you, if you're watching this from afar, and you're like, why do I need an attorney? I don't have to do that here where I live. I don't know. That's just how it is here. So that is what it is. But so that basically the attorney review is just the period of about a week or so, 5 to 7 business days. Five business days, I guess, is standard what's on the contract, but that's also negotiable. Of just being able to go through the contracts and make sure everything looks right, and all the I's are dotted, T's are crossed, all that kind of stuff. And so as long as that, and also, I mean, they'll look into, it's more than that, they'll look into zoning, they'll look into insurability, all that kind of stuff, which actually insurability is another contingency, is especially if you're getting a loan on it, the place has to be insurable, and some places actually are not insurable due to different reasons. Mortgage contingency. So that one just says that this purchase is contingent on you being able to obtain financing in the form of a mortgage, and that if you end up not being able to obtain that financing like you thought you would, which does happen, maybe things in your financial situation have changed, maybe something came up on the property itself, like it wasn't insurable, or there's a number of different things that can come up, and your lender is not able to grant you this loan, then the deal at that point is usually just canceled. You get your earnest money back, and place goes back on the market for the next buyer, and then you go and look for another place or fix whatever your financial situation was that made you made this drop, or whatever the case may be. Inspection contingency. This is a huge one. This is you have about and again, like, 5 business days or so, and these things are, like, they say that, but it's usually pretty malleable, but definitely try to get it in as early as possible. Anyway, so inspection is where you'll hire an inspector to come out and review what's going on with the property. So they'll look at everything from, like, the roof to make sure that all the electrical outlets are wired correctly, to the plumbing, to, like, make sure, like, the toilets are secure. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. You can get different you can get, like, radon testing, you can check the sewer line, you can check all manner of things, and you have a certain amount of time to get this done. And if there are any major issues, then at that point, you might want to go back to the seller and request certain things, like you might want to request that they fix, maybe, like, there's a seal broken, there's a compromised seal on a window, and there's condensation in between the panels of a window. This is something that happens a lot, and you request that the seller replaces the window or gives you a credit at closing for what that window would cost. Something like that might be negotiated, and at that point, the seller can agree, or say, no, take a hike, I'm not going to do that. And then at that point, it's up to you whether you want to continue to purchase this place while knowing that there's a potential issue, or to continue, or to drop the deal. That's the inspection contingency in a nutshell. The sale of real estate. If you have to sell your house or your property in order to afford the purchase of this property, that's a contingency that you can put in there. As is basically is just is a situation where the seller is putting it out there right away that they will not be willing to fix anything themselves. As is something that is often misunderstood. You are allowed to get an inspection done, and they might even be willing to work with you on credits and things like that. But it's just they're just kind of putting it out there that they are not going to be the ones to fix anything. And then from there, it's really only limited by creativity. You can have any contingencies you want in there, as long as it's legal. And those are the kind of things that you and your agent can discuss to see what's appropriate. The procedure of submitting the offer. So basically, you'll just write and sign the official offer. There's standardized contracts out there, kind of depending on what type of property it is. You'll all the things that you're asking for will be on that. You'll review it. You'll sign it. You'll submit the offer to the seller, along with like your pre-approval or your proof of funds, like we talked about in video 1. If that offer is accepted as is, then you get to move on to video 5, which is closing. And if the seller does not accept a certain part of that contract, of that offer, then you'll either say, okay, thanks anyway, and walk away, or maybe you'll negotiate certain things, get back and forth until you do reach a deal. And yeah, that's it. And then, so basically, if once they accept the offer, you get to move to step 5. If they don't accept the offer and you can't reach a deal, you move back to step 3, which is looking for a house again, or looking for a condo, or looking for whatever it is you're looking for. So I hope that was helpful. Again, my name is Jake Lyons at Properties. TheChicagoHomeSource.com is where you can find me. And I hope this was helpful to you. And if you got some value out of this, please hit subscribe, hit the bell, comment, like it, share it, do whatever it is that makes me know that you liked it and want some more of it. And that's it. I will see you in the next video.